Hello, everybody. My name is Bindi Kang. I'm a Chinese lady. I'm the dramaturg of the show, and I will be moderating today's event after talk. And first of all, why don't we start with introducing ourselves?
Hi, I'm Wai Yim. I'm the director.
My name is Nguyen, and I play a Tong.
Lisa Tejero, Chinese lady.
Thank you very much for joining us and celebrating this history with us tonight. So first of all, I would like to ask you a question of, do you remember the first time you read this play? And how did you feel about it the first time?
The first time I read this play was way back when they just started writing it and they asked me to audition for a Tom. I didn't. And that's when I read the play.
Well, only because ours is tandem, because that was the same time.
And we auditioned together.
We filmed each other's audition for it, and we thought, this will be so fun. It needs some work. And I will say, I think they've done a lot of work since we first read it, because anytime you get anything new in Asian, you're always like, this could be good or this could be bad, you know? And it wasn't clear to me exactly what it was going to be yet, but when I read it 3 years later for this, they did all the work.
Yes.
It is like, the script is beautiful. It's really layered, and I feel like it's honorable to everything, and it really hits a lot of different levels than the first thing we read. I don't remember specifically, but not being moved by it.
So
as
when
much.
did you read this? 20?
So it was right before the pandemic, so
Oh, sure, okay.
2018, 2019.
Right. I read it when after I saw that the public did it in New York. And I've always been someone that's just like, oh, an Asian show. I want to read this. I want to know more about it. And also, so I read it the first time the public did it the last year.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah.
2 years, a year and a half ago, something like that. So I read it.
2020 or 2021.
Yeah. And so that's when I got exposed to Chinese Lady, and also this year especially, a lot of regional theaters are doing Chinese Lady, and so I have also been sending in auditions to those as well, different tongues elsewhere. But it was really nice when Wai said that BLUEBARN was doing. I said, oh, that's amazing! My own hometown. I'm here. It's great. It's great that a theater here wants to do the show. So yeah.
Since we've already talked about our auditioning experience, so during the process of rehearsing and now we finally put it onto stage, what do you think has changed? Is there anything that you learned from the script changed when it's putting on stage?
From the script?
Yeah, from the script.
From when we started rehearsing, or?
Anytime.
Because I'm still learning.
That was very humble of you.
But I love this one because it has so many different frames, right? It's like when you meet one person at a bunch of different ages of her life, and an extrapolation of what she would be, of like she would be 203 years. That's the only thing we know about her at this point. And obviously we're not, as we say over and over again, it has the meta component of us commenting that we're commenting on it, that we cannot possibly be this, that this is an exercise of imagination that we're all in the room together sharing. And there's so many different points that I'm finding, like I kind of knew the general wash of it, but there's still little details that are coming up where I'm like, oh, that is coming from someone self-aware of performance as opposed to someone unaware. And it shifts back and forth a lot.
That framing that you were talking about, that's something that I took along with me as well. The meta-ness of it that I didn't get when I first read it, and then it actually kind of, I kind of got that idea from when you did that, did the whole, what was that thing?
The very first, one of my first speeches where I'm like, da, 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 and then I slowly go into sort of my own voice. And the audience isn't quite sure what's going on because we're not hitting it heavy. And then a tongue does it later, which was something we found a little later because it's the same sort of thing as saying, look, this is just a representation.
Absolutely.
This is not my body, blah, 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 you know. And so I do the whole, I call it the ombre of where my voice goes from
14 years old.
14 years old to sort of where I am now. And then I flipped back, which was something Wai found, because I was doing an ombre in and an ombre out, and Wai was like, what if you do a quick flip from you to back to a Fong? And so we both have been dabbling with that.
It's also quite interesting to play with a tongue as a character and as Jimmy as a person as well. And I say this all the time, that whatever I bring into a role, like whenever any director casts me in the role, I am part of that role, right? I take all of my experiences with me, right? It doesn't have to be, so if you cast me as Hamlet, it doesn't have to be an Asian Hamlet, but I am Asian, so it is an Asian Hamlet, right? It's a Midwest Hamlet as well, it's a gay Hamlet as well, right? So it's like all of these, it doesn't have to be the defining factor of Hamlet or a tongue or anyone. It's just that I take all of these experiences with me as well, especially in the show. Especially in the show, because it's such a tongue, I feel like such a blank canvas, right? And he's kind of like a mirror for the audience. That's also what I found out during the show. He's like a mirror because he faces the audience all the time. And so, and he has these, and he has these, like when you talk about the transatlantic slave trade, right? Like, oh, we don't talk about the transatlantic slave trade, right? And so I mirror what the audience is feeling as well. But also, like, in the same time, in the same frame, I'm also thinking, like, what would Jimmy think at this moment as
Now,
well?
does that change from performance to, like, do you take, well, you're our second show. But I mean, are you like taking in like, oh, this is a reaction that I wouldn't have done, but because they're doing it, I'm gonna mirror that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
And that's one of the things that's so cool, is that when we're in the room and we acknowledge you as being in the room with us, it's whatever is live in the moment. Like we had a child yesterday where it was like, we can't ignore it. So at one point it was just like, yes, and children, you know.
But we also talk about it in the show, right?
Yeah.
25 cents adults,
children,
10 cents children.
Yeah.
So of course in the real, back when this would have happened, there would have been children crying and doing all this stuff as well. So.
But it's happening in the room, and we acknowledge it with you, and you see us acknowledge you, acknowledging, you know, it's the Quaker Oats guy holding a box of Quaker Oats, that's holding a box of Quaker Oats, that's holding, you know, it's infinity in its own way.
When I started to work on this project, I just know how I want the show to feel. I don't want it to. I just know that I don't want it to be a history lesson. I don't want it to be a lecture. I don't want it to be, this is the history, because it's said in the script that history is an accident. So I just kind of keep it loose and see what we can create in the room, and then translate and transform into what you see tonight. But it's such a gift that the playwright, we have a Zoom meeting with the playwright Lloyd, and he was very interested about the actor experience instead of, because so much of it is, I hear about the audience experience, but it's such a gem that he said that he cares about the actor's experience as much as the audience experience.
And he wants to check in with us in a couple weeks to see.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's very sweet.
because I think I so deeply want this show to be here because I'm from here, and the idea of just like the Chinese lady, a Feng Moi, that has been traveling around America. And this show specifically, the Chinese lady, is traveling around the world with different theater, doing different performances. And the idea of we, as Asian American, trying to conjure someone that nobody knows. Unless you are from 18-something, that you have seen her, it is all a fiction, it is all an imaginative words. Everything that we say, we don't know she actually said it. But the most important part is the ending in a way that when she say, I just hope that you won't forget me. And I hope that you won't forget there was the Chinese lady that you don't know nothing about, that I don't know nothing about. And we are conjuring her spirit, the idea of the first Chinese lady to America, that hoping to change the landscape on the view of Asian Americans.
I was thinking of a lot of things while you were talking, and I loved everything that you just said.
But that's what I learned. Like it's meta, it's theatrical, but the core of it all is we are just trying to present something that hopefully we'll all share and remember. Many years later, there was a Chinese lady way back when called Feng Moi, and in 2023, there was a team of Asian actor and performer presenting this Chinese lady play for you all. And I don't know who the next group will be that will conjure me and her and him and all the people in the history of Feng Moi till now, and I just hope that someone will do it. And maybe we don't need to do it because we don't have racism or, we don't have that. Maybe that should be my hope, that this will never happen. But that's
The need for it.
Yes.
So speaking, I'm still on the page of speaking of actors' experience. So do you mind sharing some of that experience with us?
Sure.
Is there anything unexpected that you encountered during the process of rehearsal and performing, especially here in Omaha, Nebraska? Because I know Jimmy is from here, Wai is from here, Lisa is not, but we welcome Lisa with 100% of our love. Yep.
Yeah, I guess a Tong's dream was quite daunting for me. It's just very much, I relate to everything he says, but tapping into that, I kind of blocked it in my mind, right? Because of all the trauma that I went through growing up here, right? In a predominantly white place, right? And so I kind of blocked it, and I didn't realize how much I had to unlock and unfurl of myself to really dig deep into it. And it was scary. It was very, very scary. And I didn't really understand the overarching vision or the arc of his dream until last Sunday, honestly. And we've been rehearsing this for 4 weeks at the point. And I'll say this with any show that I do. I don't care if you give me 2 weeks to do it or 8 weeks. I just want another week, right? It's always, you just want another week, because that's like the last week. It's like, oh, I just discovered something. Oh my God. But this is great because at the same, like what we're saying, every show is not the same, right? The audience is not the same. We are also not the same too. We bring everything that we experience in the day-to-day. We bring it into the space. And so his dream, for sure, was one of the most daunting things I've done as an actor, because that's a lot of words, and that's a lot of things in those words.
That's a lot of
And he's
work.
doing it beautifully.
Yes, no, right, yeah. Yes, right. No, but for me, that's definitely has to be. Yeah, it has to be one of the most daunting things, and I think that just unlocking that and figuring out how to not compartmentalize it, but in a way share it with everyone. That's one of my favorite experiences.
For me, I'm learning very much of just the logistical, what I need to do the show. It's kind of a lot. It's like I've got a lot of plates that I start spinning, and it's just, I have to keep them going. And I haven't had a clean show, and I don't know that I'll ever have a clean show. And by that I mean I'm making mistakes in terms of, missed that moment of getting that, or that cue, or that hitting that light, or that chunk of lines. Those are still happening to me, and I think and I've done a lot of quarterbacking shows. I've done, Wit was one where it's like that's a lot to do, but this one is tricky because I think of the meta nature. Like there's so many different frames that I'm living in, and also honoring someone who existed, and there's cultural things and ageism and gender and there's a lot of things that I feel like very much like her, like you have the opportunity to be this ambassador for something better, and you hope that you are worthy of it. And it's hard when you're not, because it's more than just messing up a line, you're messing up something that might be gold for someone somewhere in the house in the dark that you don't know about, that might hit them right. And if you don't give it as clean a shot as possible. So it's just a very, very technical show for me. It's a very long memory palace in terms of, like, I got some of the dates off. I was like, yep, nope, that puts me 12, not 40. Okay. I was like, we'll just keep going and do a big hand gesture so they don't. But so I think it's going to be a constant. And what's tricky is that you can't just. With some shows, what I call flat theater, it's like you can almost check a card. Like you can get a little bit on rote. This one I can't, because I have to be live for you guys. So I'm listening to you. So if you have a response, I want to be there with you. And since I can't really see, I'm sort of going for the general area that I think you are. But I'm trying to keep that open as well. So it's like all this stuff that I'm just like, and some plates fall and I'm like, all right, sweep that away, don't pay attention. So I think what I'm learning is a combination of what it is to be inside it for myself. And one of my things that I've started doing is like whatever necklace I wear that day, that's what I wear for the show. So I can have a bit of me that I can kind of go to, where I can go, okay, this is where you are. Now you're in full of Fong. Now you're half a Fong and half Lisa. So it's like I'm still figuring that out. Learning and constantly learning.
What about you?
I learned about myself as an Asian American. And if you want to know about that, call me and we'll have a tea. This is a bit too personal to share here.
Okay, so why don't we open the questions to the floor? And anybody have any questions?
Specifics or not specifics?
Or comments.
I do have one for you. When you were talking about his dream, your character's dream, what did you, and you had a revelation not that long ago, what triggered it? What did you see? What is, specifically, what is his dream?
So it started with actually not the dream, but this moment that it was 4 a.m. And it was on Sunday, and I was like, oh, this is what a tongue needs. And it was the moment where he brings a chair. It's the first time he steps into the frame, the actual frame, right? And he looks at the audience, and then he looks at the chair, he looks at the audience, and then he looks at the Chinese lady, and the Chinese lady invites him in, basically. I look at the audience one more time because it's meta theater, right? So I'm sharing this experience with you. And then I bring the chair in, and there's that sound cue, this magical, mystical sound cue that says that I am now in this frame, period. I've never stepped foot in here, this is a big deal, right? Because my place is here. I say, oh, it's not my place, right? I shouldn't be up there. But
Your performance is now becoming performative.
yeah, it's becoming performative, exactly. And so I use that to as the baseline for what a tongue scream is. Because I myself am a tongue, but at the same time, this dream, right? A tongue's always like this, right? He's always, and he talks like this all the time, right? But my dream, I talk like myself. and I do a little, I'm not as straight, right? And I'm a little bit curvy, and I look around and I take in my experiences, because I'm always, when I'm not a tongue, or when I'm not in my dream, I'm always out front or checking in on the Chinese lady. And so using that as a basis, as okay, switching out of a tongue into Jimmy, right? And into what a tongue would dream as, I use that as my basis, basically. Did I answer that question? I don't know.
Certainly.
Great. Yeah.
For me, when I direct him in that moment, we are all the same. We are all the same. You put on a mask. You try to, when you're at work, you have this thing. When you're at home, you have a different thing. When you talk about your dream, you become freer. When you talk about secret, you whisper, and you're like, and it's all that quality in that monologue.
And I wanted him to direct me so bad. I was like, I felt like I was drowning. And for the 3 weeks I've been rehearsing this, that I didn't have that epiphany, I felt like I was just out in the middle of the sea drowning, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I do not have the skills to produce what I wanted to produce. But you would not. He was like, I don't know how. He was like, I don't know how to help you.
I don't want to say from this line you stand here and you do this and then you deliver that. It becomes such a. Then I become a puppet of the dream, and I don't want that. And I keep telling him, however you want to achieve that part of the monologue as you, Jimmy, and then we'll just merge it in. And I think that kind of unlock the freedom and as beautiful as you witnessed tonight.
Yeah, what you really saw in that moment was that a tongue was not allowed to be just a person. He was always that facade.
Right.
And you didn't see the person until you saw the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
and
then that makes you sad.
Yeah.
It did. It
Yeah.
did me. The whole dream sequence
Right.
was sad because of that. And then when he explains that so much of his life was just that facade and he had nothing to show for it, the dream becomes really important. Yeah.
And isn't it what we always do as a human being? We put on these facades to protect ourselves. You know you can't have everything. Well, maybe some of you do have everything. But the idea of when he said that in this life, you see, I cannot have anything, which is so true.
It's true. He talks about not having anything, but also talking about possession, right? It's a huge, and those were the things that anchored down my. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm drowning, but I know that these anchor words, possession, right? I look at, I want to be, right? Sometimes when I dream, and other things that I say in that monologue that I'm blanking on now because it's the end of the show.
Any questions?
I was curious, like how, you were talking about just like the frame within the frame within the frame, and you wear a necklace. I was just curious about your experience as an actor. Like, there was just so many moments where I was like, Jesus, they're like commenting on such like deep parts of humanity. Like, how do you, I don't know, like what in your training, what do you bring with you every night to like just something like that where you're like saying just a human experience? I don't know, just,
Good question. Very, I like that you're thinking above and looking at it as a whole, because I think I'm doing two things, and I'm guessing at what I'm doing because I don't want to think about it too much. I just have to do it, right? Because once you get here too much, you trip up. So it's a weird combination of channeling, but also using all your past skill and knowledge as the filters to catch it. So there's just enough of you, but not too much of you, and blah, blah, blah. And because this one has so many different sections, I think it is sort of a strange trust exercise that I jump into one section and know I have what I call deliverables of like what has to happen technically, what line has to happen, what I hope to achieve in this arc of something. And then I also have, with this piece, I have a lot of space of where I can live in it as I live in it. I do a lot of Mary Zimmerman. I don't know if you know her, but as a theater artist, she does a lot of narrative theater, so it's very open-handed. there's an acknowledgement of saying, we are in this room, and often the narrators are saying, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I do a lot of that, and that's really helped me, I think, in terms of knowing what voice and what frame I'm coming from, because I've done that for years and worked with fabric of saying, and now I'm not a person, now I am a bird, you know, and because you're telling the story, so you keep going outside to what the story is. What's interesting about this is I think the story of humanity is constantly changing. And our perspective of what we think that is, like what I think of the world now is very different from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, pre-Trump, you know, whatever happens, my worldview shifts. And this play was written in a certain time, but it might resonate in certain ways because of that. Now I have to be careful of not pointing to it too deeply, because then that names it to something that is just this thing, I think is what it should be. I have to say what I think I'm doing, and also give you enough space to come and look at it. It's very much, and one of the reasons I was like, I'll come to Nebraska, is this space, a Blue Barn. This is a phenomenal theater. And thank you for coming, and please support it, and please have because this is a rare gem. And I've traveled all across, very much like Afang Moy. There is a lot of parallels between an actor's life on the road. We're in rooms, we're on display. There's a lot of stuff that she says that is me speaking to you. And why very much was like, it's gonna kind of be you. I want you to wear your boots, I want you to wear your style. So like the vest is mine, the boot is mine. And it's very much a shirt that outfit I would wear. So when I get to that point, and that's underneath the entire time, so I'm also living within the layers of what that is. What's fun is you don't know that what my task list is, so you just pick up what you want to pick up, and I can't worry about that. That I hope that I do enough of the right stuff that it gives you the right journey that I'm trying to put forth. But honestly, I don't have a lot of control over that.
In a way that, you know, I just want to wrap it up or bring it back that you are the third character in this two-hander, and you also have
Fourth, because of the room.
yes, yes. And you have, just like the Chinese lady in ancient time, those audience that, you know, came to see Chinese lady the first, and you have, in my opinion, experienced the first in Omaha that is a play written by an Asian playwright featuring 2 Asian actors telling a story about Asian people, not Miss Saigon, not The King and I. There's no white interest, love interest that will rescue you. It's mainly just telling our story through history, through time that is even now, at this moment, 2023, March 31st, and you witness this unique performance, which is so great, so great. That is what theater is for. It's not a movie. You cannot watch this performance again. You take it, and you're gonna marinate it, and you tell the people that you witnessed something that is so uniquely the first in Omaha at BLUEBARN for the Chinese lady, which fills my heart. Because, you know, when I was growing up, I don't have the opportunity to do something that I've done The King and I, sure, but it's not my story. And thank you, Susan, thank you, BLUEBARN, to housing this play, and it's such a monumental moment, and you are part of it.
With
So-
those doors that
Yes.
just open up. Open up the world.
Yes, open up the world and tell your friends they all can be the first to witness this production, and maybe you can be the second too if you come back. Yeah.
to a
Okay,
Kiki
thank you
Barnum.
very much again for coming here. Tell your friends, spread the word. There are more events related to this play, so check the Playbell for the information, and also stay tuned with the BLUEBARN because this is the best place.
That's great on earth.
Thank you.
Yes.